Okay, we have a quiz coming up. It's our very first quiz of the semester. We are currently in what I call the honeymoon period of the semester, where we're all friends right now because I've given you no quizzes or tests, right? And so presumably most of you guys still like me at this point. But after our quiz, which is coming up, we'll highlight it here. Our quiz is right here, which you can see is Monday, September the 16th. After that quiz, some of you might not like me as much as you do right now. And so what I'm going to talk about for the first few minutes of class today is a bunch of resources you can use to prepare for that quiz. And the more of you that do well on that quiz, the fewer of you don't like me after that quiz, okay? So let's just talk a little bit about resources. The quiz is on everything that we will have covered up until that point. We talked about 1.1 and 1.2 and 1.3 already. Last class we had negative numbers, and you just showed me the homework on that. Today we're going to talk about something called quantities, and that's the last section of material for the quiz. We are going to cover section 1.4 before the quiz, but it's not on the quiz. Another way to think about exactly what's on the quiz is to go to your green assignment sheet. You guys all probably have this handy. The quiz is on everything in that first box that says assignment 2. That's what the boxes mean. They tell you the quiz is on the first box. The first test is on that first full page. Come on in, guys. Okay, quiz is on everything in the first box. The test is on everything on that page. So speaking of resources, for our upcoming quiz, we have free peer tutoring here at GCC, and Montserrat is going to tell us all about it. So we just had our little presentation on the peer tutoring program. I think the timing was great for that because we've got our first quiz coming up on Monday. Montserrat said it could be the difference between passing and failing, but it could also be the difference between like a B and an A-. So you don't need to wait until you fail something to go sign up for peer tutoring. This would be a great time to go make a free peer tutoring appointment in preparation for Monday's quiz. So that's one resource for you. Other resources for you are listed here. Where are they listed? Here on page 28. So let's take a quick look at a bunch of the resources we have for our first quiz coming up Monday. Okay, so one thing that we find here, it says something about this yellow QEF packet. So that's the big yellow packet. QEF again stands for quiz, exam, and final. And we haven't talked about this packet very much, so let's just project it here real quick. Looks like this. Everybody have one of these? I think they're in this back closet here. Okay, I will get you guys each one. I just need to grab my key. But in the meantime, so QEF packet 1 is right here, and it says that the packet includes review material for the first quiz and the first exam. There are 2 other yellow packets just like this I will give you later on this semester. And there's a table of contents, and it says that the quiz 1 review materials are here on pages 2 through 10. And then you've got exam 1 review materials also in this packet, but then the stuff for quiz 2 is not in this packet, all right? So those page numbers won't make sense to us at this moment. And then if we go to page, what is this, page 2? I think that's page 2. It says quiz 1 review materials. You will find another practice quiz. There's kind of a funny word in there. What's the funny word in there? Another practice quiz. Another. We haven't seen the first practice quiz. The first practice quiz is in the blue packet. We will see it together, all right? But this is an additional practice quiz in addition to the one in the blue packet. So there's a practice quiz, and you can run through, and I encourage you to take that practice quiz like in a quiet room without your cell phone, without the TV, without a radio, without a calculator, and just take it like it's a practice quiz. That's the best way to kind of see where you are. And eventually you will find the answers to those problems. And if you go past the answers, you will find even more practice problems for quiz 1. There is no shortage of stuff for you to practice on in preparation for our quizzes and tests. I'm never going to check this, but if you ignore it, I think you are missing an opportunity. Questions on the yellow packet? Okay, coming back here. There's a folder on Moodle called Moodle Practice. We looked at it before. We'll just flash it up here again. Moodle Practice has a whole slew of PDFs in it that reference lesson numbers that we've covered. You can check them out for more practice on specific lessons. I'm also going to point out one other document here. This is new. I just put this in yesterday. There's a document here called Arithmetic Videos. You download it. I've already done it, and it's open here. And here are a bunch of videos on YouTube from somebody at something called the Khan Academy. I've mentioned that before. Here are a bunch of videos specifically about arithmetic. So if any of you have some weakness in terms of some specific arithmetic skill, this would be a great place to check. Each of the videos here is categorized, and there are just pages and pages and pages of videos. You don't know how to divide fractions? Check out that video, okay? This document is in Moodle. You can have a look. Coming back here, the blue packet contains many practice problems. We've talked about that. And you can check all the problems in the blue packet by going on Moodle and looking for the keys. Yeah, Joe? Quantities are on it. Yeah, so let's come back to the schedule one more time. Yeah, so everything in assignment 2 is on this quiz, and assignment 2 is in the, yeah, on that green sheet right there. Everything in that top box. Everybody clear on exactly what's on the quiz? That's Monday morning. Yeah, so today we talk about quantities, and it's the last day of new material for the quiz. Friday is another section of new material that's not on the quiz. Good? Okay, coming back here to the blue packet. There are plenty of blue problems that you probably haven't looked at. Those are good practice. Also in Moodle, one more document called Additional Textbook Problems. If you are looking for more problems to do in the textbook, you can just randomly do whatever problems you want, and that's probably going to help. But that document right there specifically lists problems that we think are good ones to do. We didn't assign them. We don't want to assign too much homework. But if you are looking for more problems to do, don't just do random ones from the book. Do the ones that we recommend in this document. Okay, so here is an observation. You can take the quiz or exam, quiz in this case, on Monday with any section. I only teach one section. But Sandy teaches 4, Erica teaches another 2. There are a lot of times when you can take this quiz. It doesn't have to be Monday morning at 9. It could be Monday morning at 10 or Monday morning at 11. And so I'm expecting that I will see most of you here on Monday, but if you happen to oversleep on Monday, please do not just decide you're going to bail on this quiz. You can't get up by 11. Something's going on. There's a quiz in this room at 11 o'clock Monday morning, right? So if you can't make it to ours, come to the 10, come to the 11. There are some Tuesday or Thursday sections of this class. They take the quiz tomorrow. So you guys have like another 4 days of studying. So if you are ready and you just want to get this thing done tomorrow, you can come here and take it tomorrow. But I'm expecting that most of you will be here at 9 o'clock on Monday. Okay, there is other stuff on Moodle. Just going to flash it up here real quick. But on the left side of our Moodle page, and I think it exists on the left side of all of your Moodle pages. Oh, I got to go back. Is this general list of student support services right over here. This is not specific to our course. I have no control over what's in this box, but just pointing out there's a link to our homepage. There is free online tutoring. This is different from the presentation we just got, but free online tutoring information right there. The peer tutoring, we just talked about that. Montserrat came in. There's a student help desk if you have technical issues. I don't want to go through them all, but there's a lot of resources there to help GCC students in general. So if you have some question, this might be a good place to go look for the answer, all right? Okay, I think that's fine. One last thing about the homework. So in terms of the homework, we haven't really talked about my late homework policy. It's kind of hard to read from up here, but I'll just say late homework isn't advisable, but you're granted a grace period of 1 class for each homework assignment. So if you didn't have the homework for me today, I will take it from you next class, which is Friday, without penalty. And I will always give you that grace period. I know sometimes life gets in the way of doing algebra homework every other night. I will accept homework later than 1 class period away, up to a point. There might be penalties, like lateness penalties if you turn it in too late, but here's the point that I will take your homework up to. On Monday, we are having our quiz. The whole point of doing this homework is, in some sense, to practice and prepare for that quiz. I don't really see the need to take the quiz and then later on just kind of do the homework to just say I've done the homework. Like you kind of missed the boat if you haven't done the homework before the quiz. So on the day of the quiz is the last day that I will take any problems from that top box, which is called assignment 2. All right. So if you have late homework for me, Monday is the last day that I will take anything that's on the quiz. Make sense? Okay. All right, so that is that. I think we've got everything we need to talk about. Okay, good. So let's go to the next page here. Is this, where are we now, 29? Everybody on page 29? Okay, and finally somebody else gets to talk. Can we go to Chris? Can you read the objective, please? Okay, thank you. And we'll go to Drew. Okay, Henry? We're on page 29. Keep going. Everybody clear on the assignment? You're making a question up where the answer is a number, but I don't want the answer to be a time or date or year, but any other numerical answer is fine. You don't need to know the answer to the question. Write down a question that your group agrees on. Raise a flag when you're done. Okay, so we're going to share now with the entire class the question for each group, and then we're going to write down an answer. I'm just going to write the answers up here. It's okay if the answers are not the right answers. Some of you guys have asked very difficult questions to answer. That's fine. So in some sense, we're probably just going to make answers up. The point is not whether the answers are right or wrong. We will get to the point. Okay, this table in the back corner, what was your question? How many pounds of, you had another word, didn't you? Okay, Statue of Liberty contains how many pounds of copper? So many pounds of copper. Okay. I have no idea how many pounds of copper are in the Statue of Liberty. I'm going to make up an answer. We'll say 2 million pounds. Okay, 2 million pounds of copper. That is not the right answer. I could be off by many orders of magnitude. That's okay. Next question. Back corner here. How many pieces of paper are in the class? There are. Okay, so somebody make up an answer. 8 million. Sorry, I sounded judgmental. I think that there are 8 million pieces of paper in the room. Okay, I think there are a lot of pieces of paper in the room. I don't think there's that many, but that's okay. Okay, here in the middle, what was your question? How much does an elephant weigh? Anybody know? 4 tons? 8,000 pounds? 10,000 pounds? I thought it was 2,000. All right, our elephant's on a diet, 2 tons. Super. Next question, right up here in the front. Really lame. How much does a dry erase marker weigh? So that's one of these things right here. Somebody give me. Oh, that's just an eraser. Oh, a marker, not the eraser. Yes, okay, so how much does this weigh? 8 ounces. And dry erase marker weighs, okay, we're just going to write both answers. 8 ounces. What was the answer? What did you say, Joe? Was it 6.2 kilograms? Just making stuff up. Okay, and then this group here in the front. How tall is Mount Everest? Mount Everest is 2 inches tall. You guys have really embraced this idea that the right answer doesn't matter. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to make up just one more question here. What is the volume of this room? Anybody have an answer here?
35.
Volume of the room is 35.
500, 600 cubic feet.
600 cubic feet. Does that seem reasonable? Would it make sense to say 600 pounds? So even if 600, I mean, I don't know if it's 600, but cubic feet seems reasonable, right? Whereas pounds is not a way we could measure the volume of this room. Super. Oh yeah. Okay. All right, so let's talk about two new words for us, quantities and units. That is the whole point of today's lesson, is to understand quantities and units. These definitions are written on the very next page, so I will say them and then you don't need to write them down because they're on the next page. But a quantity, check it out here, just the very first sentence. A quantity is something that can be measured or counted. I say it again, a quantity is something that can be measured or counted. A unit is a specified amount of a quantity. A unit is a specified amount of a quantity. That's all I'm going to say for those definitions. So coming back up here in that first purple question, we are looking for a quantity and a unit. Again, a quantity is something that can be measured or counted, and a unit is a specified amount of a quantity. So, for example, let's go to this, an elephant weighs 2 tons. What were we counting or measuring in that problem? The weight. So I'm just going to point down here at the bottom. We're going to have this convention all semester long that I'm going to ask you to circle the quantity word and underline the unit word. That's going to be consistent all semester. Circle the quantity. So the thing that we were counting or measuring, the thing we were quantifying was weight. So we are going to circle the quantity word, and we are going to underline the unit. What was the specific amount of weight that we were talking about here? How did we measure weight? Is in tons. So the 2 is irrelevant. That's why I said the right answer doesn't make a difference to us. There's something that you are measuring, it is weight. And then there's like this fundamental thing that you are counting or measuring weight in, and that was tons. Let's go to the green question here. What were we measuring in that problem? Was also weight. What was the unit for that problem? Was ounces, or, and we wrote both answers here, ounces or kilograms. Either one. If I ask you to talk about quantity words and unit words, I'm always going to ask you to circle the quantity word and underline the units. And so look at what we've got here. We've got weight in a couple of different problems. Is there only one unit that you can use for weight? No, there are a bunch of them. You can measure weight in tons. You can measure weight in ounces. You can measure weight in kilograms. What else can you measure weight in? You can measure weight in pounds. That's probably the most common way that we measure weight here in the US. I'm just going to say one technical detail. You can ignore this for the purposes of quizzes and tests, but I'm saying it just because I'm on record right now. Kilogram is technically not a unit of weight. It's technically a mass. It's a subtle difference. It is not important for our purposes. Okay, moving up to, let's actually move down here. Mount Everest is 2 inches tall. I actually didn't really write the quantity word there. What were we measuring there? Height. So I'm going to add that up here. The height of Mount Everest is, and I'm going to get rid of tall. Height of Mount Everest is 2 inches. Quantity word is the thing we were measuring. Height. What did we use to count or measure the height? Inches. So we circle the quantity word, underline the units word. Can you guys, I don't know if you've written that last sentence, but can you write that last sentence? And then circle the quantity word and underline the units word? Okay, what is the quantity word in that sentence? Is volume. That's the thing we were measuring. And what was the unit? Cubic feet. And the whole idea of these units is that they represent a common language that we can share. If I say 1 cubic foot, we should all have an image in our head of what 1 cubic foot means. It means a cube where each side is how long? It's 1 foot. That's what 1 cubic foot represents. And this sentence here would be meaningless if your cubic foot was a lot smaller than my cubic foot. But the good news is all cubic feet are exactly the same size everywhere in the world. So units are, in some sense, the standard way of comparing, right? I can compare 600 cubic feet to 200 cubic feet because I know what a cubic foot is. I know what 1 cubic foot is. Okay, moving up here. The Statue of Liberty contains 2,000 pounds of copper. Okay, I feel like pounds is something. We've seen pounds, or we talked about pounds. Is pounds a quantity word or a unit word? Pounds is a unit. So we're going to underline to be consistent with what we've done today. Quantity word. What was it that we were counting or measuring in this problem? It was an amount, yeah. Anybody come up with a different word? Was it weight? Yeah, it's one of these weight mass things, and pounds is actually a weight. So when we said it contains 2,000 pounds of copper, maybe we'll change this just a little bit so that we can get the word weight in here. The Statue of Liberty weighs 2,000 pounds. I'm just going to take the copper part out. Or 2 million pounds, thank you. The Statue of Liberty weighs 2 million pounds. Is weighs a quantity word or a unit word? That is a quantity, the thing you are counting or measuring, quantifying. Okay, and finally, blue. How many pieces of paper in this room? There are 8 million pieces of paper in the room. Okay, there's something in the sentence, quantity or unit, and the other thing is really not in the sentence yet. Anybody tell us what is in the sentence already? So what's the quantity if it's already here? How many pieces? We're in blue right now. We have a number. We have 8 million somethings. Well, look, I had 2 million pounds. What was the pounds called? Quantity or unit? That's a unit, right? So the word that follows the number seems to be the one that's underlined. Let's see if that's true down here. Is the word following the number underlined? Yes. Is the word following the number underlined? Yes. Is the word following the number underlined? Yes.
When you ask the question, how many pieces of paper are there?
Yeah, and so do we want to circle or underline that pieces of paper? It feels like that's going to be underlined. So 8 million pieces of paper is a unit. We are counting in pieces of paper. We're not counting in pounds, counting in pieces of paper. Let me change my sentence a little bit then because I'm missing something. If I want a quantity word here, I'm going to cross that off. Then what do I want to say here? The number of pieces of paper. There's one word up there that is important to me right now. Which one is the one that is number? Something that you are counting or measuring. We were counting how many pieces of paper were in this room. Number is a quantity word. Yeah, sounds complete now. Yeah, I didn't quite get all the info in that sentence when I wrote my answer before. That's a good point. Okay, so taking a look on the next page, I will just point out a couple of things. We're not going to read through this together, but you can check it out later. But a couple of things. That first box filled with words, those are all quantity words. We saw some of them already. We talked about height, right? Mount Everest. We didn't talk about temperature, but that's something you can measure or count. You can measure temperature, right? We talked about weight. We didn't do anything with cost, but we can talk about how much a gallon of gasoline costs right now. We didn't mention area, but we did do volume. We talked about the number of pieces of paper, and then speed. Speed is something you can measure. 5 miles per hour. And in the bottom row here is a collection of units. And I'm just going to highlight something that may or may not be obvious, but these actually kind of go together. So you can measure height in feet. You can measure temperature in degrees Celsius. You can measure temperature in degrees Fahrenheit, right? Those aren't the only unit words, but I just want to point out they go hand in hand across this whole table. And then one more thing here. If you are not clear, like you know, okay, this is either a quantity or a unit and you don't know which one it is, we can go with that thing that we discovered to test if a word is a unit. Only whether or not it's a unit, try sticking a number in front of it. If it makes sense, you probably have a unit on your hands. If it doesn't, it's not a unit. For example, does 6 feet make sense? Yes. Does 6 height make sense? No. Feet is a unit word. Height is not. Does 6 degrees Celsius make sense? Yes. Does 6 temperature make sense? No. This is a pretty easy way to decide whether you are looking at a quantity word or a unit word. Slap a number in front of it. If it makes sense, it's probably a unit word. We're going to circle the quantity words all semester, and we're going to underline these unit words. Okay. All right. So you can check out this stuff for your reference later on. And for right now, you're going to jump into this classwork activity on page 31. See how far you can get. We're actually going to come back together when we start the next page, but let's see what we can do in the next 8 minutes or so. See how far you get. Can everybody jump to the next page here? Let's all jump to this next page. We're just going to spend a few minutes talking together about exponents and radicals. So this whole quantities and units thing, it can take a little bit of time to really understand, you know, which one is which, but with practice, this whole circling the quantities and underlining the units will become a lot easier. But let's just change gears completely and look at exponents and roots. Those are the two things we're going to talk about at here at the end of our class. So I'm guessing that many of you are going to be able to zip through a lot of this, but some of you, it's going to look pretty foreign. So we're just going to go slow enough so that everybody's with us. 4 squared, I don't want to know what the answer is. I want to know what it means. It means 4 times 4. And how does the 2 appear up there in what we've written out? We're multiplying it twice. So I'm just going to put down here in another color. This is 2 copies of the number 4. Yeah? That's where the 2 appears. You don't actually write the 2. It's just telling you to write 4 twice. That's what the 2 is. Okay, so the answer is 16. But more important than the 16 is to understand what it means to take something and raise it to a power. And I got to tell you, when I learned exponents for the first time, I didn't understand it. And I thought that this was just a funny way to write 4 times 2. And I wrote 8 for the answer here. What did I write for my answer on B? 12. It's the only math quiz I got a 0 on my whole life. But I got every single one of these things wrong because I didn't understand it's just that many copies of the number. Okay, 4 cubed. Again, I don't really care what the answer is, but I want to know what it means. It means 4 times 4 times 4. How do we know that's what it means? 3 copies. Yes, yeah, that's how you would say it out loud. 4 to the 3rd power. The 4 is called the base. Excellent. Yeah, there are a couple of special words for these powers, 4 squared and 4 cubed, as opposed to 4 to the 2nd power or 4 to the 3rd power. Those are both fine. Squared and cubed are so common that we have words for them. We don't have a word for like 4 to the 4th or 4 to the 5th. Yeah. Right. Only squared and cubed. Okay, so we multiply those 4's together and we get 64. So far, so good. Let's come down here to part C. Different from the previous problems. How do we say that thing out loud? Square root of 16. What's the answer? It is 4. This one is going to be a little bit harder for me to write out why it's 4, but why is it 4? What 2 numbers? I'm glad you added that. How about what number times itself makes 16? Some number times itself is going to give you 16, and that number is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. A lot less comfortable for many folks is this symbol in part D. Anybody know how we say that out loud? That's the cube root of 64. Thank you, Catherine. That's the cube root of 64, as opposed to a square root of 64. What's that? Yeah, so you could say the 4th root of 64 or the 5th root of 64. So you can just count all the way up. Yeah. Square and cube, again, are a little bit different. Yeah. So cube root of 64. I'm looking for a number, not that when I multiply by itself, which means I have 2 copies of the number, but I want 3 copies of the number. Some number times itself times itself. 3 copies of that number to give me 64. Anybody know what the answer is? It is 4. And in fact, this problem and this problem go hand in hand together, right? And the other two go hand in hand together. Yeah, so that's it. So the cube root of 64 is 4. It's the mirror image of that problem up there in part B. Some number times itself to give me 64. One last kind of funny thing about this notation. Okay, so I can understand, I see a 3 here. That's telling me 3 copies of some number. What's missing in part C? Is a 2. There's no 2 telling me I want 2 copies of a number, right? There's a 3 telling me I want 3 copies of some number. There's no 2. There should be a 2. I'm going to put in a 2. Mathematicians are lazy, and as a result, we've omitted the 2, but it's there. It makes sense to have a 2 right there. We just decide that square root is something that we use so often, we're going to omit that 2, and everybody's just going to understand it's an invisible 2, but it's there, okay? So that symbol looks different from all the other radical symbols. It's only because we're trying to be a little bit more efficient.
I think it's also put a 1 there. If you put a 1 there, then it's not square root.
Right, yeah, you need some number bigger than 1. Yeah. Okay, so in the couple of minutes left, can you jump to the next page? And you will find in the middle of the page the quick check. See how far you can get in the time remaining.